Yeah, finally we could do the video that I've been wanting to do for like about a week. Jesus. Hey guys, what's going on? It's Lightworth13 here, and I'm back with another video. So back in July, I switched out my Samsung phone that I threw almost a year ago, back in the same green screen, and this is my iPhone 7 Plus that I don't have in a case because I keep forgetting to put it on, and I'm just like, whatever, I don't care. So I had this phone already for about 3 months already, I believe. Has it been August, September? Yes, it's been 4 months. 3 months. 3 months? 3 months. And I want to tell you guys my experiences with the iPhone. Now, this is the first time in almost 4 years that I've been using an iPhone. The last time I used an iPhone was the iPhone 5C, back when iOS 8, I believe, was out at that time. And I just want to say that the iPhone 5C was a pretty good phone, to be honest. People say that it's just a gimmick phone, but at the same time, every phone needs a gimmick, and the whole plastic phone thing was like, that was just the whole purpose of the gimmick. So this is the 7 Plus. So yes, it's obviously the one with no headphone jack, and it's the one with the dual cameras. So my experiences with the iPhone 7 Plus in its era of now, before when I had that, well, its era of now than before, compared to when it was a 4-inch screen to a now 5.5-inch screen, it is a massive difference compared to when I first used the iPhone. With the 5C, it was very small, very compact, and it was very powerful. It was very fast, and it was very responsive when I played games. But then again, it was brand new when it came out, and it came out with brand new chips and brand new hardware and software, and it even came with a brand new iOS 8 update. Compared to this, where we're already in iOS 11.0.3, and I haven't even bothered upgrading to either of them, I believe. I think I'm actually at 11.0.1, if I'm not mistaken. But it's a very different experience to how I have actually used to use iPhones. Back then, I actually used to, before when I had the iPhone 5C, hold on, it's, yeah, 11.0.1 I'm on. When I had the 5C, there was no fingerprint scanner. It is a very new experience for me to use a fingerprint scanner, and I'll say it's pretty accurate. It's pretty good, but there are times where it gets super smudged, and you will have to clean it out because it will not read your fingerprints that are multiply stacked over time, which sometimes you just have to give it a little clean and it'll be back up and running. And for my first experience with fingerprint scanning, it's pretty good, and it's very different from putting in a passcode, or it's very different from putting in a pattern. But usually with an iPhone, you usually put in a passcode instead of a pattern, which is it is very different compared to just putting in a passcode. Just like putting in your fingerprint, it's so weird. Secondly is the camera. My God, what an upgrade compared to the 5C from what I remember. I actually do have some videos with the 5C, and comparing to that with the iPhone 7 Plus, it's a little bit night and day, with the fact that I've only done a few videos with the 7 Plus, similar to the 5C, where I didn't do that many videos, although I may have actually done a lot more than I think. But it's pretty cool that the camera on this phone is absolutely amazing. It could shoot 4K at 30 FPS, which it seemed to be a bit of a storage eater, especially when my phone is a 32 gigabyte model instead of like 64 or a 128 or 256. And the reason why I went for 32 was because I didn't want to chew out of the budget of my mom. I didn't want to go for 256 because I thought it was too much, and I didn't want either 128 or 256 because I thought it was too expensive, which is a little bit absurd, but I just didn't want to get my mom upset for me breaking the bank. Now, the battery on this phone, it is pretty good, to be honest. People usually say iPhone batteries are absolutely terrible. It's not terrible. It is only terrible if you don't know how to use your phone correctly. Now, how I use my phone is on a daily basis. I always watch 12 hours worth of video. I spend almost 12 hours a day on this phone on a weekend, basically. On a weekend, I spend almost 12 hours on this phone. And that's because I always have the brightness all the way low, and I always have a power saver on all the time. Power saver is very, very efficient, and it could really save you a good hour or two worth of battery life on a daily basis compared to having it on normal, where you're bound to have it die in just a couple of hours. Now, the design. I went matte black. The reason why is because I hate fingerprints. Unfortunately, I don't. It's kind of the reason why I was drawn away from the iPhone 8 because I knew it was gonna have glass backs. So with me being a little bit OCD with fingerprints, I just went with the 7 Plus instead, and especially with the whole problem that's going on with the iPhone 8 Pluses, where the battery is swelling up so much that the screen is just like popping out of place. Yikes, that's pretty scary for iPhones. But then again, iPhone always has its problems. I mean, we remember the bend gate, we remember the camera gate, and now we have the screen gate where like the whole screen's just popping out. And man, it's pretty weird how iPhones just had like these problems. I mean, I can't complain because I'm an Android guy, and I grew up with Samsung. So with the fact that they also had their explosive gate where their phones were just blowing up, you know, you can't really critique them sometimes because every phone has their problems, every phone has their mistakes, every phone has their issues. It's a normality. But I went with matte black because jet black just seemed too glossy for me. I like a matte finish, and I like a phone that has a good grip. Funny story, I remember when I first got this phone and I felt it. It felt really weird because it felt like it was sticking to my fingerprints on the back. Probably because I'm not used to matted phones, so I guess that's probably the reason why. Now the screen on the phone, there's a lot of scratches on it. But no, there really is a lot of scratches. I don't use screen protectors on my phones. I like to show that my phone has longevities in my pocket, on my bag, on my sweater. So yeah, you'll see a crap load of scratches on the top and on the screen, and I've already dropped this phone about 3 times or so, and there's some pretty nasty scratches on the screen, but they're not noticeable when you turn them on. You basically have to see them at a glare to really notice that the scratches are there. The screen on the phone's not bad for a LCD screen that is on full HD of 29, no, not 29, I get those confused, 1920 by 1080p with the Retina HD display, which for an iPhone, it's not bad. People say like the screen is terrible on an iPhone, and that obviously Samsung's displays are superior. That's a little obvious. They're meant to be superior. That's how Samsung made their phones, to look more pristine and have more, what's the word? It's more fashionable, more prestigious, and more it's supposed to look like a powerhouse of the phone. They're meant to look, prestigious compared to an iPhone. They're meant to look luxurious, basically, compared to the iPhone, because the iPhone has had the same design for years and years on end. And look at the iPhone 10, which is just it's still the same design. It's just the screen's different, really. But it's a really good display. It doesn't have True Tone. That's only for the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus. I don't mind, but it is overall a great screen. The front-facing camera is pretty good at 1080p at 60 FPS. That's pretty good for a front-facing camera. A pretty good vlogging camera. Honestly, I want to vlog on this camera a little more often, but it's a really good camera for what it is. And I would say it could rival the Galaxy S8 and maybe even the S8, the Note 8, but I'm probably a little off on that, but it's a pretty good camera nonetheless. Now, last but not least, I want to talk about is iOS in general. If you guys know, this is what iOS 11 looks like currently compared to iOS of the previous times. This is iOS 11. Compared to the iOS that I used to use, which is iOS 10, iOS 8, which are the iOSs that I grew up using and kind of am familiar with, it is a very different experience. Hold on, let me move my chair a little up. It's a very different experience because I am so used to having my things right there. but everything now is clustered, so I can get used to it. With the way how everything's been with the iPhone, with the 7, of my experience with it so far, with it being a 1-year-old phone, I like it. It's smooth, there's no problems. I haven't dealt with any, let me see, I have not dealt with any lag issues like some people say that's the bugs of iOS 11. I haven't dealt with anything of that sort in the recent times. I may be lucky, I don't know. But I've never dealt with an issue so far. I've pretty much dealt with pretty decent results. Well, not decent, some pretty good results. Nothing bad, nothing good. At first, my iPhone kept resetting over and over again, but I'm assuming that's kind of normal with a factory new phone, because this was out the factory when I got it. But it's a pretty well built phone, and it's really good. So my overall opinion on the iPhone 7 Plus. Granted, this is obviously a year overdue of any iPhone video. Everybody's focusing on not only the 8 Plus, but everybody's focusing on the 10 that's about to come out in like a couple of months, because it got delayed to December, so it's going to be delayed even further, which I could assume it's going to come out in January. To be fair, it might. I mean, there's no doubt about it, in my opinion. But my opinion on the iPhone 7 Plus. It's a great phone. It is probably the best phone that I've ever used, next to the iPhone 5C. And with the fact that this is the third Apple product that I've personally owned, previously the iPods, the iPhone 5C, and now the iPhone 7 Plus, it's nice to be back in that iOS experience because it is simplistic, it is easy to use, and it's not that hard to get used to switching to usual like digital keys on the Samsung phones compared to just one button and doing everything on the screen. I'm used to it, and it's pretty familiar, and it's pretty easy to use. Now, there is no problem that I have with the iPhone. So it's safe to say that if you guys can't afford the iPhone 8 Plus, or you can't even afford the iPhone 10, the iPhone 7 is a good way to go. Now, I'm pretty sure everybody's going to be saying, what about the headphone jack? What about the lack of headphone jack? It's pretty easy to get used to, really. It was really easy for me to get used to having no headphone jack. So, and I thought like I would get like frustrated with it because I would always have to have a dongle with me, or I would have to use the proprietary Apple headphones. But it was easy to deal with the dongle because I have 2 phones, so it's not that hard to deal with. And I really don't have to charge my phone and watch videos because it kind of messes with the battery a little bit. But overall, it's a great phone for a great price. If you still want a headphone jack, then it's alright to go for the iPhone 6s or 6s Plus. But if you're willing to go for an upgrade that is just a little bit lower than the iPhone 8 Plus, then the iPhone 7 Plus is the right way to go. Now, that concludes this video. But next week, I'll be telling you guys my experience with Android, as I've been an Android guy the entire time it's been around. So this will be mostly a tech-heavy time for about a good month. So we just talked about the iPhone, and we'll talk about my experiences with Samsung, Android, the 5 things that I like about Android and iOS, and the 5 things that I dislike about the two. So keep in touch with those videos that'll be coming up in the upcoming 6 weeks or so. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and if you like this video, click the like button and hit subscribe. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take it easy, you guys.